Good morning, everyone. Gwen Price here. And today I'm fortunate to have Brian Eady with me. And Brian is with Northern Air and Mechanical Systems. Morning, Brian. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. That's one way to describe your company, but probably more people are familiar with.
More people are familiar with our brand of 669 Heat.
Right.
So they'll call and they'll ask for 669 Heat. When we answer the phone, we answer Northern Air.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
people will say, "Oh, sorry, I'm looking for 669 Heat." Well, that's the same thing because 669 Heat's our phone number.
Yeah, and I see it all
432.
over your trucks, all over the city. So
Yep.
that's a great way to brand it. It's easy for people to remember the phone number,
Yep.
which is what you want.
Exactly. I thought of this after living in Toronto for 10 years about Pizza.
Okay,
And
yeah,
they would advertise their phone number.
that's true.
Yeah, and so in 2005, my first cube truck, I decided to market on the cube truck the phone number 669 Heat so people would remember it.
Yeah,
But it's
it
not an
worked.
actual company, it's
Yeah.
just our brand.
Well, it works, yeah, for sure. And you're a local boy, so here you
Yes.
say you lived in Toronto for a while, but
Yeah.
You're born and raised in the
Yeah,
city.
yeah, from Lively.
Yeah.
Small town Lively, left when unfortunately there was no work in the Toronto or Sudbury area, and
Right.
so I went to Toronto, and,
Yeah.
and of course the economy picked back up, and came back to Sudbury, and been here ever since. So this September will be 30 years.
Well, great, and thank God you came back, because
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing when Sudburyans come back, and a lot
Yeah.
of people did that, right, a few
Yeah.
years ago when the economy wasn't doing great, but
Yeah.
now we're stable, and there
Yeah.
is work for people in
Yeah.
your industry and other ones too.
Yeah,
So,
very, very stable, and we're always looking for good people to join our team.
yeah.
Seems to be quite a shortage of tradespeople, so not only my company, but other companies are always on the lookout for
Yeah.
good people.
Yeah, that's great. And your company, what exactly do you do?
We work strictly in residential homes. We look after the equipment that's in your home, whether it's a furnace or a boiler, an air exchanger, air conditioning unit, a fireplace, anything with natural gas or propane, we can service or install. We take pride in saying that we're looking after the comfort of your home.
Mm-hmm.
Our technicians are trained to look at different pieces of equipment and make decisions on how to increase the performance of them.
Well, and I know we're sitting in your actually training room, and
Yeah.
there's different types of equipment here, and we'll be talking about that shortly too. But it's such a serious issue, it really is. And as a realtor, I know we were talking the other day, and what I started to do a few years ago because of running into some issues is to actually in the offer ask for the furnace or air conditioner to be cleaned or maintained, or serviced rather. And that's because, in my experience, in 30 plus years, I've run across it a number of times where maybe it's a newer looking furnace,
Yeah.
but in fact there's an issue. And nobody can tell looking on the outside. The box
No.
looks good,
Correct.
but inside is what's so critical.
You're right. And what happens is, anyone can take a cloth and clean up a furnace, but you really need to pull the blower out and look at the secondary heat exchanger if it's a high efficiency furnace, or even check the integrity of the primary heat exchanger. And you can't do that from looking at it. You've got to take it apart, get underneath and look up. Our guys have work tablets, and on the work tablet we have a 6-foot extension camera that allows them to get up inside and look, and they can find deficiencies. And you'll be surprised if you've got a furnace that is anywhere from 10 to 12 years of age and has never had maintenance, chances are the heat exchanger is failing.
And what is that? What is a heat exchanger? What is it doing?
So what the heat exchanger does, in most newer furnaces there's two. There's a primary heat exchanger and a secondary. And so the burner shoots the flame, the natural gas flame, through the heat exchanger, and the heat exchanger takes the heat out of it. And you would have a fan that's blowing air across it. So it's taking the heat out of the flame. Takes it out to such a degree that it cools it down below its flue gas dew point. That's where the secondary heat exchanger is. Continually extracting heat out, but the result is it leaves condensation inside the furnace. and that condensation has to drain out of the furnace and
Was
get
that where
away.
you see that little hose
Yeah,
sometimes come
yeah,
out, and
yeah.
people, what's that?
That's right.
Yeah,
If you don't clean the furnace, over years that condensation dries up inside the heat exchanger. There's an acid, it's also in that exhaust, or that condensation, and it starts to eat away at the secondary. So if you've never had it cleaned, and it's 10 years old to 12 years old, really good chance when we look at it, we can start to see the decay of the secondary heat exchanger. At that point, the furnace is not functional, it's not safe.
the
So-
carbon monoxide becomes an
Yes,
issue.
yes, very
And
much.
I know in two experiences, the furnaces were when they were tagged, they were shut
Yeah.
down, and we're talking in the middle of winter, and
Yes.
somehow you've got to provide heat into
Yes.
that building.
Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, for the replacement time is the winter, and people get caught off guard.
Mhm.
You know, you have to replace a furnace. You're told at 10 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
your furnace isn't functioning anymore. It's not safe, and you've got to look at buying a new furnace. It doesn't put people in a good position. It's not
Well,
comfortable.
and carbon monoxide, there was one, this is going back a few years ago, but the technician, it was an oil system, and the technician shut it off, and the tenants had been complaining for 6 months about being
Yeah.
sick and that sort of thing, and the landlord had cleaned the ductwork,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the ductwork,
No.
it was the furnace, and
Yeah.
they were being poisoned.
Yeah.
So it is critical, and people have died, so it's a
Yes.
serious thing.
And you know, it doesn't have to be an old furnace either.
No,
because
I've seen
Yeah.
some new ones that are,
This week alone,
Yeah.
we found a 1.5-year-old boiler, which looks like the one we have here.
yeah,
Because it was installed improperly and set up improperly, it was producing a high level of carbon monoxide. And there was 3 elders in the house, and they called me because they said, whenever we have a north wind, I can feel something inside the house that's not right. My eyes are burning,
wow.
you know, my nose is burning, there's something wrong. So I sent a technician right away, and we found levels of over 5,000 parts per million in the house.
Because a lot of times you can't tell. Carbon monoxide is the silent killer,
That's
right?
correct.
And people die in their sleep, and it's horrible. I mean, families have been
Correct.
killed that way
You
because of it.
you should have a carbon monoxide monitor. Everybody should have one in their
Yeah.
home, along with a smoke detector.
Absolutely.
And how we found it, of course, is because we have digital meters, our service technicians, but really the homeowner should have one in his home.
Yeah. So it is critical, really, to have your furnace or your anything
Yes.
to do with combustibles, I guess, to
Yes.
have it every year.
Yeah, fireplaces, water heaters, furnaces. Now, in the last about 6 to 8 years, we've seen an increase of people going from water heaters to tankless water heaters.
Right.
Something like the one
this,
behind us
yeah.
here.
Mhm.
And so that's quite a complex little unit, and it's got a
Yeah.
small heat exchanger in there.
It looks pretty simplistic,
Yeah,
but
it does,
isn't.
but
Yeah,
it, you
yeah.
know, if you don't clean it, you know,
Mhm.
something like this that's not maintained with water quality that we're seeing in the Sudbury area, 6 to 8 years, it's going to be finished.
It's the hard water
That's right.
that we have.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I know.
And the
it's-
mineral deposits, and if we don't clean the product annually, it won't last very long. And if you clean it properly, you could get years, way longer than the manufacturer's warranty. You get something like this, you could easily get 15 to 20 years if you've maintained it.
Right.
The same thing with your furnace.
Yeah, and I think people, like a lot of times, they just think they've got something new. It's good now for it, because we say, okay, yeah, it's good for 20 years or whatever, but that is assuming that you are maintaining
Maintaining.
it every year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's just, it just boggles my mind that
Yeah.
we still run across that, but it's a fact of life. People
Yeah.
don't think about it, and I've told you too, I go into houses where you can't even see the furnace because it's surrounded by boxes.
Yes. The worst thing to put around a furnace is boxes, but even paint cans or detergent.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
Yeah,
Very, very bad for the furnace.
and like with a hot water tank, you've got an open flame.
Flame, yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
people don't think about it.
No.
It just scares the heck out of me.
Yeah.
That people are not thinking
Yeah.
what the repercussions of
Yeah.
treating. It is a
Yeah.
box sitting in your basement, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's vital to your health.
Oh, big time. because if it's forced air and it has ductwork, anything that's happening inside the mechanical room can get picked up by the ductwork and sent out all the way up to the bedroom where your children are sleeping.
Exactly.
So absolutely, you should be maintaining your furnace and or water heater or boiler.
all of
Anything
it.
that's inside that mechanical room, very,
Yeah.
very, very important.
So I know there's different types of heating systems now. I mean, I still see these great big old octopuses in the basements of old houses,
Yeah.
but over time things of course have improved
Yeah.
and the size of systems has
Yep.
shrunk, and so you've got some small, but like I still see boiler systems, and I was telling you also about one where it was frozen
Yeah.
and those rads had cracked, and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe the degree of that pressure to open up a
Yes.
metal rad.
Mother Nature is very strong.
Yeah.
And so when you don't maintain something like a boiler system that has water in it, and you go away for the winter and you come back and it's failed, the ice the water freezes and the ice expands to such a degree. Cast iron rads like what you're describing, it'll break a cast iron rad. That's very
I've seen
strong.
cracks, but that
Yeah.
was like I
No,
could put my
that's-
finger in it.
Yeah, no,
It
it's
was surprising.
You would
Yeah.
never know that from
Yeah.
ice what it could do.
Yeah.
It absolutely can break cast iron rads, and copper rads split them like nothing, and then boiler systems. And of course now when we go in and we repair it and put heat to the system, we find multiple leaks throughout the whole house.
Yeah,
and
which
you
can be
in that.
behind the wall.
That's
It's
right,
not
in drywall.
what you necessarily see in front of
Yeah.
you. So boiler systems are, sorry, are one system, but now the boilers have changed too, and you can have the combination,
Yeah.
like the one behind us, where
Yeah.
it is providing your hot water as well as
Yep.
servicing all the rads in the house
Correct.
too as well, which is
Correct.
kind of neat to,
Yeah, it's a combination boiler can produce domestic hot water and heating water for the closed circuit. The only thing that you should be taking into consideration if you're looking at a system like that is to look at your water consumption. Like look at your bathtub, look at your shower. You have to take all those into consideration because these units have a lower flow rate.
Oh,
So you may have a bathtub or a shower head that can take up to 10 gallons a minute. These units can only produce 3.5 to 4.5
Okay.
gallons a minute. So you have to be very careful where you put them.
mm,
You know, there's a lot of negative notes on on sites on the internet saying that my tankless water heater doesn't work. It's not the tankless and it's not the boiler. It's been put in an application that won't meet the demand. There's a way around it,
yeah.
so you
okay.
can still use a boiler, but you put a tank beside it, so the boiler heats the water in the tank.
Okay.
Now you can have increased flow rate. So
Oh.
really, you've got to take a lot of things into consideration prior to putting in either a combi boiler or a tankless water heater. You've got to look
The
at
size of the house and the needs of
That's
the
right.
family.
That's right. How many showers? How many bathtubs are in the house? You've got to take all that into consideration.
So the other systems I see a lot of now in new construction is the in-floor heating.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. In-floor heating
Pretty
is
efficient, or-
fantastic. Is the most efficient source of heat. Think of the summertime when you pick up a rock of slag. When I was kids, we didn't have paved roads and everything was slag.
Slag, yeah.
You pick up a chunk of slag and hold on to it. It holds on to the heat for
Yeah.
a long time, and that's what in-floor heating's like. Once you've brought your temperature up to a comfortable temperature, it takes very little energy to maintain that. So you always get energy coming off the slab, and it works its best.
So in that type of system, though, how do you also have cooling?
So you have some options. The typical would be to have the boiler go into what's called an air handler. So an air handler can have a heating coil and a cooling coil. So the heating coil can give you some forced air for the floors above the cement slab. And then in the summertime, you have an outdoor air conditioning unit. It will give you the cooling inside that same ductwork system for the whole house. So it's
I
really
see.
a hybrid system, and that's the most common when
Okay.
homeowners say they have in-floor heating. Generally, they're referring to the slab.
Right.
You can do in-floor heating in the floor joist. It's not as efficient, and not as effective. The best way to do it in that application is to put the tubing on top of the floor and then pour an inch and a half of cement over top.
Uh,
Now you have some heat sink, because that's what in-floor heating is looking for, is something to have heat sink to hold on to the energy.
Good to know.
Mhm.
And so there's a split system here, which
Yeah.
I happen to have because our apartments that I have are
Yep.
electric heat.
Yep.
And that was an option to put that in, and I'm
Mhm.
very happy with that.
Yep.
So that is taking heat out of the air?
Correct.
So you're heating and cooling as well?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've come a long way in terms of efficiency. A lot of homes are just not conducive to ductwork. I mean, they've been built and designed, they have a decor, and to start cutting up walls and drywall, it's not conducive. So you put that type of a system in, and the hybrid heat pump system can extract heat from the air outside all the way down to, some of the systems can go as much as -40.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still drawing heat.
Yeah,
And
it's
so-
amazing, isn't it, when you think about heat
Yeah.
out of cold air?
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
amazing.
It works just like your refrigerator, and so it continues to provide heat. And they're great for people that have electric heating homes with no ductwork, or even people that have boilers that have rads or in-floor
Mhm.
heating the whole house. That's an option for giving you some cooling, and possibly shoulder season heating.
Mhm.
October, November, maybe April and May, where you're turning the in-floor off, that can recapture some of that heat that you're losing.
Yeah, well, I found it's very efficient for
Yeah.
our units that
Yeah.
that we have, for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, you have the forced air systems, which, is
Yeah.
the ductworks there, and a house with electric heat can be retrofitted to
Yes.
some degree.
Yeah.
I find too, sometimes people don't do it up on the second floor, they might do the basement
Yeah.
level and the main floor,
Yeah.
just to get the forced air systems.
Correct, correct. And we've converted quite a few homes, and we've given them different various options. The idea installation is to get heating to all the floors. That's the ideal.
Yeah,
Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice,
Yeah.
because, I mean, there's a cost to running ductwork to the top floor and then boxing it in with drywall.
Right.
And so there are some, you have to give and take on some of these
Mhm.
applications. But
Mhm.
we definitely can convert electrically heated homes to a certain degree if we don't get the whole house.
yeah. And how, like, fireplaces have become more energy efficient too, with, and the trend away from wood heating. People
Yeah.
still like wood, and in Northern Ontario, it's a good option
Yeah.
in a lot of areas, but the gas fireplaces too, a lot of people are using
Gas
those.
fireplaces look amazing. Like some of the units today that you can get have such a realistic flame, and they're awesome for zoning. And so, like, I mean, if you wanted to heat your basement and you had an older home, rather than trying to redo something with ductwork or
Mhm.
a boiler, you could put a fireplace.
Right.
And that could act as the heat source for the basement, or on the main floor, an open area, living room.
Yeah,
For sure, fireplaces have their role in heating homes, and they have come a long way from something that we were installing in the 1980s, and far, far away from
Yeah.
that.
yeah. No, and also that's what we have in the living room. We
Yeah.
did a fireplace surround, but
Yeah.
we also have the split system.
Yep.
So it works very well.
Yeah, for sure. There's alternatives. You don't have to put ductwork in. There's alternatives
Mm-hmm.
to come up with an energy efficient system to get you off electricity, so reduce your operating costs.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. I think what I really wanted to emphasize was about the safety, because I think so many people forget about that. They just stick those systems in,
Yes,
and they
forget.
forget about it, and it's vital. It's
Yeah.
your health, it's your kids' health, it's
Yes.
your life sometimes.
Very much, very much.
So thank you very much. And you're located at 1360 Kelly Lake Road,
Correct.
and the phone number is?
669 heat.
That's a pretty easy.
4328.
4328. So thank you very much, Brian. It was very informative, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Gwen.
Thank you.